ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Witt, and I am very pleased and honored to be asked to MC today's State of the Region address. We have many dignitaries in our presence today. We would like to welcome and acknowledge the dignitaries from Vauxhall, Barnwell, and Coaldale. From Vauxhall, Mayor Crawley, if you could please acknowledge. Thank you. From Barnwell, the Mayor, Foster. And from Coaldale, the Mayor Van Ryan. We are pleased to welcome you all here today. Today happens to be the start of the Lunar New Year, which is celebrated by many Asian countries and our Asian community. And so, in the spirit of that, of renewal and moving forward with happiness, health, and prosperity, we welcome you to today's State of the Region address. We are very pleased to welcome today four esteemed guests. First coming in from via satellite, the Member of Parliament, the Honourable Martin Shields. Our Minister, the Member of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Grant Hunter. From the Municipal District of Taber, the Reeve, Her Worship, Tamara Miyanaga. And of course, our town of Taber Mayor, His Worship, Andrew Prokop. Our four dignitaries today will be allotted 30 minutes each. We will begin with the Member of Parliament via Teams meeting. It will just give you one moment. Welcome, Your Honor. Can you hear us, sir? Are you addressed? Wonderful, thank you.
Can you hear
me? You.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Sorry. His microphone is right here for those who might be asking questions. Can you hear me better from here, sir?
Yeah, you're not as garbled.
Oh.
And you look better, too.
Well, we are ready to receive you, sir, if you would like to proceed.
You bet. So it's coming through clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. One of the challenges in the sense of being go to events like this is sometimes you're committed to events in Ottawa. Last night, as I sit on a very different committee, it's the advisory committee on the center block rebuild and the precinct around it. So we had a late Friday afternoon, and so that makes it very difficult for me to be able to get out of Ottawa back for this today. So I appreciate the ability of you setting it up to do it by Zoom. And to all the people in the room, thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate it. And I see the media was there at one point. I saw somebody from the media. Thank you for being there. It's one of the biggest challenges we have is the survival of our community newspapers, our community media, and this is a real challenge for the survival in Canada of our local media that I think is critical to our community. So thank you for being here today to cover this. Where to start? Some people say, what is it the Conservatives are going to do? And I often give them the sports analogy. Tomorrow the Super Bowl's on and the 49ers are playing the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs aren't going to go out and tell the 49ers what the game plan is for the game tomorrow. We all know that they'll say, well, we'll score more points than they do and we won't make as many mistakes as they do. But there are some things that we have talked about as part of our plan. We've talked about something that's critical in this area, and that's axing the tax. I was in the irrigation conference here earlier this week, and listening to the people that I've heard numerous times before of the huge amount of money they're paying in irrigation on carbon tax. We're getting up to tens of thousands of dollars per farmer on the carbon tax, and when it's quadrupled, it will be brutal. This is a challenge for irrigation in particular, but all of us, as the farmers pay the carbon tax, the truckers are on the tax, the producers on get taxed, and you as consumers get taxed. There's alternative ways to do things. This is not an environmental plan. If you look at the goals that the government Liberals have for this program, they say, we raise the prices enough to change the behavior. Well, now we have 2 million people going to the food bank because they can't afford to increase prices of food. So that's why the carbon tax is a problem and why we would eliminate the carbon tax. There's other things we can do for the environment incentive-wise, but taxing people to death to try to use it to fix the environment is not going to work. Something else that's a challenge, particularly in rural, is the building of homes. Immigration numbers are up huge, 500,000 a year. The student visas are up now to almost 800,000 in a particular year. So the lack of housing is brutal. And I know Taber and the county, MD of Taber, have done some things for housing in their communities. It's been great to see what they've been doing. But the plans that the Liberal government talk about basically are for urbans. But they don't work strongly for urbans because they won't pay for the infrastructure underground before you build the houses, which is problematic. But again, building houses in rural has been a real challenge. The provincial government, MLAs, I know, are working on the warranty program to try to see if we can get rural home builders back. And thank you for the provincial government working on that one. The budget, there's more paid on interest than health care and defense, just the interest alone, the amount of money that's been spent by this government. So when they ask the Conservatives, well, they say you're going to cut things. The first thing that we would look at is the billions they're spending on consultants. They are spending just an incredible amount of money on consultants. Our point is, they've hired 40% more staff in 8 years. We don't need the consultants. Let the staff they've hired do the jobs they've been hired for. So if you cut out to start with the consultants, let's get on with the work of the people who've been hired to do it. The other thing we say about the budget is, if you're going to spend $1 more, then you have to find $1 saved to spend that new dollar. So that's the other side we go with the budget. Stopping crime? Well, if you're in southern Ontario, an expensive vehicle is stolen every 5 minutes. I was walking back a few months ago. The justice minister at that time lives in the neighborhood I do, and he was walking with his chauffeur up to the hill, and he says, "You're walking this morning?" "Yeah, they stole my car last night." And that's, his car's been stolen 3 times. That's the Minister of Justice. The Port Authority to check containers is virtually down to nil in Canada. In the US, they screen 50% of their sea cans in their ports. Canada is virtually down to 1% at the most. So the criminal element has figured this one out. Let's just steal the cars, load them in sea cans, and ship them out through the ports. This got to stop. We are saying just buy the scanners that the other ports use in the other countries. That's the first step. But we need our port authorities back to deal with our ports. We are also a net export of drugs through our ports. The criminal element has figured out, we can ship into Canada, but we can make drugs in Canada and ship it out because nobody's checking the sea cans at the ports. So we're sending drugs out, the detrimental drugs that we've got in our community. One specific thing that I'm working on is called the Private Members Bill. We have digital logs for truck drivers now. Absolutely want to make truck driving as safe as possible. But they have a 10 to 12 hour window. And the 10 hours, once it runs out, you've got to park your truck. Now, if you're moving livestock, this is a problem. In the United States, what they've done is they put in about a 3-hour bubble on either end. So if you're familiar with moving livestock at all, let's start with cattle. If you move into a feedlot area, once that truck is moving by 3 to 5 kilometers an hour, the digital log kicks in. So the time he gets that truck loaded, it may be an hour or two off his time that he's moving. And if he gets to a point where his log runs out, he's got to do one of 2 things. He's got to stop where he is, or he's got to keep moving and risking a heavy fine. I first ran across this a few years ago with the bee guys. We have a lot of bee guys that move their colonies to the coast. And so with the digital log, they got to drive straight through, because if you stop with bees, one of 2 things happen. The heat in the hive is too high or it's too cold and they die. Ventilation they need. The other thing that can happen is they're hungry. They just fly away. So the bee guys have got a problem with this. So that's a private member's bill that I will have in the House, work through all the stakeholders. We'd like to match it up with the U.S. Have similar to what the United States has, when you've got a 3-hour bubble on either end, making it safer for the transportation of livestock. I could talk about a lot of things, like Bill C-21 that we're going to repeal, or C-69, the anti-tanker bill that we're going to repeal. We got a list. I spent a lot of time on the Heritage Committee dealing with C-11 and C-18, and that's where I spent a lot of time fighting for media, the local media we have in our communities. And what's happened with CTV is an example of the government mismanaging their funds to support media, which is not what they should be doing it, but local media, which is really important to our communities, is very, very challenging to stay in business. So that's something under C-11 and C-18 to do with media and the news media that I spend a lot of time with. One other thing I spend a lot of time with on committee is safe sport. Most of us are probably familiar with what happened with hockey players in London, Ontario in 2018. This came to Heritage through Hockey Canada because sports are under the Heritage Minister. We started into this study almost 2 years ago. What we found very quickly was Hockey Canada wasn't the only issue with youth in sports. We had witnesses from most sports organizations in Canada, and there's significant challenges with most of them. So we'll be coming out with a report here in the next month. We're just going through the final recommendations, but it has been a tough study. It's one as MPs, we took sessions on trauma, how to deal with witness, so we didn't re-traumatize the people that wanted to come forward to talk to us. It was some difficult conversations that they would bring to us. And this was an all-party approach. This wasn't partisan as how we approached this. Every MP on that committee, didn't matter what the party was, we wanted to try to get to the understanding of what was happening in sports and how we could make recommendations to try to improve for our youth the safety in sports. Sometimes you see a lot of partisanship on part of members of Parliament, and I'm probably good at promoting what I believe in carbon tax and agriculture and oil and gas, but on that particular study, it wasn't partisan. We were all trying to find what was going on with youth in our sports and trying to find a way to resolve that issue. So I've talked quite a while, love to ask some questions. You probably have some about some things I haven't talked about. Glad to hear from you if you've got questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point, we would like to invite everyone from the panel to come up and ask any questions that you would like. If you're unable, I can bring the microphone to you for all intents to be able to hear. However, if you want His Worship to be able to hear you, you might have to come up to this microphone.
My friend Bill.
MP Shields, thank you so much for your presentation today. And my name is Bill Chapman. I'm a councillor for the town of Coaldale and also the president of the Highway 3 Twinning Development Association. So my question to you today, MP Shields, is as I'm wearing the hat as president of the Highway 3, I do have some good news for you in that we're expecting an early announcement soon as to construction of the twinning of Highway 3 commencing from Taber to Burdett, 36 kilometers. We don't have the final details here, but MLA Grant Hunter is here today to support our advocacy for the twinning of Highway 3. You mentioned in your presentation that for every dollar that you would need to spend, you would have to recruit $1. I have some really good news for you that if you invested, for every dollar that you invested in or invest into the construction of Highway 3, there would be a $3 return in economic development. So my question to you, Mr. Shields, is this: The National Trade Corridor Fund is part of the federal portfolio, and we've been working hard to try to find some dollars from the National Trade Corridor Fund to offset and support this needed highway.
It's always good to see you. If anybody doesn't know that you are the absolute best at promoting Highway 3, it'd be a shock to me, because you have done a phenomenal job over the many years that I've known you, working hard for the economic development of Highway 3 and the regions around it. And you're absolutely right. This is a corridor. I know the MLA, that's his mandate, the corridor and the economic development of it. And Grant is he's doing a phenomenal job of working on that. So any resources that are available, we're happy to lean on the guys for you. And I'm sure Grant has done as well. And the Premier isn't shy about asking for the resources that need to come to Alberta. So between those conversations, absolutely whatever we can do. And thank you what you do for the Highway 3. And it is the economic development that's going to really be paid back. You're right, the dollars are coming back with every foot of that highway that gets built.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Oh, I see somebody moving.
Perfect. I'll come to you, Ms. Brooks. Mr. Shields, I may have to relay the question again for you. Mr. Shields, question from the forum is, where are we on gun control?
C-21, wow, this government is continually trying to limit the freedoms of legal hunting gun owners in this country. It's the illegal guns that are the problem. The illegal handguns are coming in. So C-21, it's in the top of the list of about 5 that we want to be repealing as quickly as we can. Why are we penalizing those people who runs the records daily of a gun owner are run daily through the RCMP database? It is the most checked on record in Canada, because if you own a gun legally, that program runs daily. So why are we penalizing those people, law-abiding gun owners who are trained and are hunters or for sport shooting? We're basically eliminating handguns from competition because they can't buy them, they can't sell them, and you can't be participating basically in our Olympic sports of handguns that are used. So we're going to repeal that one real quick because it's wrong.
Please come on up, sir.
Yes. My name is Laura Hunter. Mr. Shields. I'm just a local farmer here. I was interested in your comments about the carbon tax. I sort of stepped back from the management of my son's irrigated farm, I guess, but they have told me that, the many-fold increase in our total utility electrical bill, both of energy, transmission and distribution, and the carbon tax. So keep banging away on that. My specific question was, though, just recently I have become aware of a federal initiative, liberal initiative, I guess, to cap Alberta's energy production going forward. I wonder if you could comment on that and what you think can be done, as well as a companion bill, I understand, being fostered to penalize those who advertise or advocate for Canadian energy.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, let's Charlie Angus, the NDP backbencher, who's looking for some theater to try to penalize anybody who would support natural resources. He's getting a little desperate these days. For the first time, the polling in his riding is going against him in Northern Ontario, because people have figured out, hey, to work on resources, the NDP isn't the answer. So Charlie Angus is getting a little desperate when he suggests that you should be fined for speaking in support of natural resources. So that's that one. The other one you asked, I can't. I got off on Charlie Angus. There was what was the first part of it?
The cap on energy in Alberta.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as our MLA knows that the Premier's been in Ottawa, we as a party oppose it. We are absolutely aligned with the UCP government on that one. This is wrong. Where do they think they're going to get their money in this economy from by shutting down the resource sector with a cap? Where do they think? Across the country, people work in the resource sector. Whether you're in Mississauga with the machinery company supplying parts, whether you're coming from the Maritimes to work at it, it is money that is supplied across the country, and to put a cap on the emissions for Alberta, you are really going after the GDP of this country. That's wrong, and we will fight it along with the UCP from Alberta.
Mr. Shields, would you care to comment on Pierre Poilievre and a possible election?
Sorry,
Would you be able to comment on Pierre Poilievre and a possible upcoming federal election?
Great. Since I've been in the House, we've been through 3 leaders, but Pierre Poilievre is one of the most brilliant gentlemen I've ever seen. He has a memory and the ability to remember. Fantastic. He's very strong, very smart, very intelligent. One of the challenges we have is when you have very smart people, people say, well, they're too smart, and they try to poke holes in them. So his challenge is getting out, and he is getting phenomenal response when he gets into places where people can see him and listen to him, because he is a brilliant communicator, a very intelligent, brilliant communicator. The challenge is getting that message into the places that we need to do. And he spent a tremendous amount of time in Vancouver, in Toronto, and Montreal. He's becoming very fluent in French, so that he can speak in Quebec and Montreal very clearly. So he is spending a lot of time in those major urban areas. Yes, he does get out to the other parts of the country, but he is working very hard on it. Now the election, the possibility, that's the biggest game in Ottawa. When's the election going to be called? Because everybody has an opinion on a daily basis. There's one critical time that I think that we will get by here pretty quickly, that the election could be called before April 22nd if they wanted to go by the old boundaries. If we get past April the 22nd, then there are new boundaries, and Alberta picks up 3 new ridings, as well as another one in BC, and another one in the East. We will win those seats. So that's in our favor. If we get past April 22nd without an election call, the new seats in Canada are in areas that we're going to win. So that's a date that's important. I don't think they would call an election before the 22nd, but they know that they'll lose those new seats that are going to be up, because there's 5 new seats in Canada, and we're going to win them. So the fall is what people would say if there isn't one called by the spring, then the fall. And again, the polls at this time are not in their favor at all. If the polls are turned in their favor, change differently, then the possibility of election is in the fall. If the polls don't change in the fall, they're not going to call an election. The other thing that could happen, which we're all watching, if the polls stay the same, will the Liberals think maybe they need a new leader? But that's all, the gossip of Ottawa that goes on constantly, everybody trying to figure out when the next election is going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. You still have an allotted 9 minutes. So please don't feel shy, everyone. There's plenty of time. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, you are very welcome to come up to the podium.
Oh, Mr. Shields, I'm going to beat on you for a little bit in this 9 minutes. My name is Lawrence Brady, and I farm in the local area here. And I have some concerns over this unused housing tax that's being levied on rural folk all across Canada. And I'd sure like to see some repealing on that, because I think it's going to mean that there's going to be a disincentive for a lot of people to build a house on a farm, like we're being taxed, everybody's being taxed on a house now. This is an additional tax if that house is at some point vacant. And with farms getting bigger, we've got, employee houses, we've got some turnover there all the time. Why should we be taxed because our house is empty for 2 months or 3 months or whatever? Could you comment on that?
Absolutely. Unintended consequences of legislation that the Liberals didn't anticipate. So what they were trying to do is push legislation that would create more housing, because if there's empty houses, then they wanted people living in them. But that's not how it works in rural Alberta, or in rural anywhere in Canada. We have lots of homes, multiple homes in agriculture. And all of a sudden, accountants were contacting their clients and saying, you need to file, and it's going to cost you anywhere, we've heard, from $500 to $1,000, file this other form to have your secondary home on the farm, or one that's not used all the time, exempted from being taxed as a secondary residence. So we ran into that last year, and the government said, oh, that's not what we intended. No kidding. So now we have this whole industry of accountants trying to contact their clients to make sure they do. Because if they don't, there's a huge fine. And so that's beginning to roll out, that fine scenario, when people aren't doing those. So they didn't intend for that consequences, but it's bad legislation. We've been lobbying to get that changed. They agree with us it's wrong, but they haven't fixed it. We will.
Are there any questions from the forum? It may appear that there are no further questions for you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the mayor for organizing, hosting this. So I don't want to take up any of the next person's time. Let's move to the next one. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Your Honor. With that, I am pleased to announce that we are getting back on schedule. Our next dignitary that is being invited to the podium today is the member of the Legislative Assembly, the Minister, Mr. Grant Hunter.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the mayor for putting this on. He must do it better than I do, because I've put on some town halls before, and sometimes I'll get 5 people, sometimes I'll get 10 people. I think there's at least, 80, 90 people here. So, Mayor, I'm going to put you in charge of it next time. I also want to thank Tabor's favorite son this year, Chris, for emceeing this event. He always does a great job. I love his smile. He's a great advocate for Tabor's Blue, and with the school, he does such a great job with advocating for the police in schools. I just wanted to, I want to spend more time listening to you and hearing your questions. It's extremely important for me to understand what's on your mind and what your concerns are about some of the policies that our government's bringing forward. But first of all, I'll just bring greetings from the Premier and from our government. Premier Smith, many of you will know that I actually did not support Danielle Smith in the leadership. I supported a friend of mine, Travis Taves. As a person that I've known for many years, I felt that he is an honorable person and would do the job well. As I've gotten to know Premier Smith, I have seen her be the leader that we need now, and I'm grateful that she is the Premier that we have in the province right now leading us. And it's a privilege and an honor to be able to be with her in the caucus. She has been bold in many ways. She's tackling the healthcare issue again. As you know, we didn't do such a good job with tackling the healthcare the first time we went, the first 4 years that we were in. And I heard it from you. I heard that there were concerns and that we had messed up. And so this time, when we go forward with these changes we're making in healthcare, we're going to do it thoughtfully. It's under the excellent tutelage of Minister LaGrange. Adrienne, I've known her for many years, and she is a steady hand at the helm. And she's a person that is has a very caring heart. And so I'm excited about seeing what Albertans have to say on this file. I know that when you listen to those who are in the trenches, those who actually are living it day in, day out, they actually have the answers, they have the solutions. But far too often with the healthcare system that we had, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. It was so big, $24 billion corporation. But there was lots of good things that AHS did well. We just want to make sure that we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater in the situation. So I can assure you that we are going to try to make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. Hopefully we will be able to go forward with the patient at the center. And this is what I believe that most people that are actually involved in healthcare are looking for, is how do we get it so that the patient is at the center of the healthcare delivery system we have. And so that is something that we're going to be focusing on. We made that as part of our campaign for the election. And I believe that with your help and with the guidance of those who are giving us feedback with our roundtables that we're doing around Alberta, that we will be able to get some really good information on that. Now, we have some successes. I believe there's successes that we can share with Albertans. One of the things is that when we took over in 2019, the previous government before that had added about $70 billion of debt onto our balance sheet. And that, at the time, the argument is we debated them on that and said it's not a good idea. They always said the cost of money is really cheap, it's really low, it's the best time to be able to borrow. The problem is that fast forward now, and we are not at a time where interest rates are low, we're at a time where interest rates are very high. And so the cost to service that loan has become extremely difficult because of the cost of the interest rates. However, we have been careful, we've been methodical, we've been purposeful in what we've done in terms of trying to get our financial house in order. We had a structural deficit that we had to try to address, and that was not an easy thing to do. The size of government had bloated, and to try to be able to fix that, we actually had to cut. So we got rid of some employees in the government through attrition. So in other words, when someone retired, we did not hire back for that job. And this is something that we did methodically over a 4-year period, where we were able to actually balance the budget. And what's exciting about it is that we were also able to project a surplus of $5.5 billion in 2023, which ends on April the 31st. We were able to pay off about $13.4 billion of debt. Now the nice thing about that is that debt as it came due, the new interest rate for that new debt that we would have to carry was going to be 3 times as high as what we originally got that debt for. And so being able to pay it off saved us a large sum of money in terms of what our carrying costs were. We were also able to put $3 billion onto the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. This is the first time that has been added to, rather than using all of the money for general revenues. And I sat on that board, and was excited to be able to finally see that. This is our trust fund for our children and our grandchildren. This is something I feel very excited about. As we move away from oil and gas, and whether we like that or not, and I'm not a big fan of that, but it seems the world is pretty bent on going that way. If they do that, we are a little fish in a big pond. So how are we going to address that issue? How are we going to make sure that we have enough for our roads and our hospital building and schools and the universities and all the things that we spend money on in Alberta, which is about $54 billion. How are we going to be able to provide the money to be able to provide those services? As long as we have as long as we're dependent on non-renewable resource revenue for those royalties, we will always have a structural deficit. Whether you call it a structural deficit or not, it is considered a structural deficit because at some time we could lose that. When we saw back in 2021, when we actually were paying other people in the world to take our oil away, we were actually paying them to take the oil away. I sat on Treasury Board at that time. It was the scariest situation I have ever been in. Our bonds at that point were considered as junk bonds. You could not sell Alberta bonds because we were giving away, we were paying people to take our oil. It had become negative for the first time ever. And so we recognize the importance of diversifying our economy so that we were not so much reliant on oil and gas, which allowed us down in southern Alberta, as a person sitting on Treasury Board, to be able to actually sell the proposition, the value proposition that southern Alberta has something to offer. And what we sold, what I was able to sell to the Premier and to the Treasury Board at the time, was this idea that we already have a super cluster of agri-food processors between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. This is already the start. Without government help or anything like that, we already recognize that this is a place where you can actually grow 60 specialty crops, high yield, high margin crops. And so I said to the Premier and to the Treasury Board, if we build it, they'll come. If we actually increase the irrigation land that we have, if we increase if we capture more of the water coming from the eastern slopes, we'll get more of those agri-food processors coming here. Last year, I had the privilege of touring Simplot around our area. They were amazed at what we had built here. This is what happens when we've got our forefathers and foremothers that had the vision of being able to actually build out the irrigation. Because in Saskatchewan, they didn't have the vision. In Montana, they didn't have the vision. But here, in this area, they did have the vision, and we built up. We have 70% of Canada's irrigation land right here in southern Alberta. What a testament to the forethought of our forefathers and foremothers. So, over the last 4 years, we've been able to build out and start working on expansion. You know the Chin Reservoir expansion is going on. We're going to expand over 230,000 irrigated acres of irrigation. Now, there are people who say, my goodness, we're in real trouble with the water. How do you expand if you don't have the water? Good point. It only actually increases the value of my point, which is we have to capture more water. Water is the new gold. If we don't capture it, someone else is going to capture it, and they're going to have that value opportunity for themselves. And so we have a priority within the Alberta government right now, which is spending a lot of money on it, and so are the irrigators here, irrigation districts, to be able to capture more water. This is our insurance. If we capture more, we have more insurance. This is how we look at it. And so being able to capture some of the best, cleanest water out of the eastern slopes in places like Chin and Dead Horse and the ones that we're doing is going to actually provide us insurance for growing food for the world. And it's not, we don't do irrigation here. I was at an irrigation conference. We do the feeding of the world here. And as geopolitically things get unstable in other places like we're seeing in Ukraine and in Russia, it becomes far more important for us to grow more crops, more specialty crops, and do it better here. We do it better here, and I'm very proud of it. And so we were able to get a bunch of money here You've heard me say this, I've said it for probably about 4 years now, and some people say, Grant, you said that enough. You don't need to keep us in. I'm amazed at how many people still don't know what we're doing here. Highway 320, bless his heart, Bill has been working on this for a long time. But it was an opportunity to be able to say, look, we need to have that expansion for this agri-food processing corridor, be able to bring it in. We need to have that so that we can get product to our agri-food processors. The Oracle Omaha once said, when it rains, don't bring out a little thimble, bring out a big bucket because it doesn't always rain. And so we had a big ask that we asked Treasury Board and the Premier of Alberta, and we got a big amount of money. Over almost $1 billion in terms of irrigation alone. $200 million in terms of the Taber-Burdett Highway 320. So I think we're doing lots of things that are good. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting times in this corridor. The other thing that we're doing is we're trying to make this corridor into what's called the designated industrial zone. When businesses come in, they can go anywhere in the world. These are big, sophisticated businesses. They can go and put and they oftentimes do. We want them to be able to say, Alberta is open for business. This is the best place to be able to grow our business. We want them to be able to get their business and their money working for them quickly. And so a designated industrial zone along this corridor will allow them to be able to get their money working for them quickly. It kind of gets rid of a bunch of the red tape and the hoops that we see far too often. And so I'm working on that as well with environmentally protected areas and some of the other industries. We've recognized the importance of making sure that we stay up with building new schools, renovating schools. We've done quite a bit in our riding. And so it's exciting to be able to see that work continue on. I know that Jack Van Ryan and Bill have had a big school and a school and a recreation center combined with the building in Coaldale. It's going to be able to help that community quite a bit. I wanted to tell you that originally I had been tasked with the red tape reduction file. And it put a smile on my face every day knowing that I was getting government out of the way of our job creators and our innovators. And I had the privilege of doing that for over 2.5 years. And I can tell you that I was disappointed when the Premier pulled me off of that file, but he put on some good people and the work carried on. And so we were able to announce the other day that not only did CFIB give us another A on their report card for red tape reduction, we were the best in the country. We achieved the goal of being able to reduce regulatory burden in Alberta by 33%. 1/3 reduction of all the regulatory hoops that Albertans have to jump through, we've gotten rid of them. I've been looking for that clap for so long, I have to tell you. And it has put a lot of smiles on my face. But we have a lot of work we still need to do. And you guys know where those red tape hoops are. You know what we need to do still. And so I ask you to make sure that you keep on going onto the website and giving your ideas, because those are where we come up with all of those red tape reduction hoops that we got to get rid of. With that, I want to tell you that I also recognize there's affordability struggles that we have right now. People need to be in a home. You want to give them dignity, allow them to be able to have a home. And so this is something that this is actually a macro issue that we're dealing with. We tried to be able to address some of those affordability issues. We were one of the only provinces that could do it without going into debt. Actually, we were the only province that could do it without going into debt. We had a major affordability package that we provided, we rolled out to vulnerable Albertans. We re-indexed AISH, we re-indexed support services, we re-indexed income tax. So we've tried to make sure that Albertans are benefiting from when the times are good in Alberta. And so we've tried to get back a little bit more. The affordability issue is still an issue. We actually rolled back the 13 cents provincial tax on fuel. Unfortunately, that was never going to be able to be a forever thing, and so that has come back on again as you've all seen. I'd love to have been able to see that stay off, but unfortunately the schools still have to be built, the hospitals still have to be built, the roads still have to be repaired and built. And so we had to bring that back on again. I think though that as we are careful and prudent with going forward, that we will be able to continue to have Alberta be that place where we can start a business, raise a family, and grow with our family in the future. That we can bring back that thing we used to call the Alberta Advantage. This is what gets me excited about being involved in the United Conservative Party government, is that we actually do believe that Alberta's best days are still ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that we will have an opportunity for questions and answers at the end once the remaining dignitaries have had an opportunity to speak. At this time, I would like to welcome up the Reeve of the Municipal District of Taber, Her Worship Tamara Mianega.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting the Municipal District of Taber to participate in the State of the Region. In the State of the Region. It is our honor to share our updates and progress. Although there are boundaries, our community is not limited by geography. We take great pride in the cooperation and prosperous relationships with Vauxhall, Barnwell, Taber, and our neighboring areas. Representing the 7 divisions of MD of Taber, our dedicated councillors are committed to championing the interests of our residents and fostering a safe and healthy, dynamic rural community. Joining me today is Deputy Reeve John DeGroot and Councillor Merrill Harris. They're in the back corner. They could do a wave. Our other councillors, John Turcado, Brian Hildebrand, Murray Reynolds, and Chantal Clausen were unable to join us, and myself, Tamara Mianega. A heartfelt thanks also goes to our MD staff for their unwavering support and dedication to the residents of our municipality. Our council proudly serves on 40 internal and external committees, ranging from water commissions to library boards, all with the aim of representing our diverse municipality and enhancing the lives of our citizens. We recognize our residents are the heartbeat of our municipality. With a land mass of 4,160 square kilometers, or for those who prefer imperial, 1,606 square miles, and a population of 7,500, we rely on their insights, concerns, and tireless efforts. They step forward to help Hamlet Recreation manage cemeteries, libraries, campgrounds, and golf courses, and so much more. Our municipality's success is based on the dedication and commitment of our residents. Our Hamlet population makes up 20% of our municipality. Enchantes and Grassy Lake are 5 thriving community hubs. They have recreation, seniors hall, centers, halls, libraries, and house 3 of our fire departments. This year, Enchant Library revealed their War Memorial Project in conjunction with Veterans Affairs as a reminder of the sacrifices that were made so we can enjoy the freedoms of today. It showcases 4 young men who made the ultimate sacrifice for their community and country: Clarence Howe, Ray Stam, Anton Mel, and Wilbert Gillespie. It's important. Take a drive out to Enchant and see this beautiful mural. On the hearts and backs of the Hamlet and surrounding area volunteers, the Hamlets are thriving. They are resourceful, they fundraise, work casinos, and do day-to-day work to ensure that their Hamlet has the amenities of an urban center. Take time to visit, not just drive by. You will see the sense of pride and the unified community. Enjoy a meal at the restaurant or take in the many recreational activities. Our Hamlets are unique to our municipality and they offer many opportunities. Retlaw is also a historical gem in our municipality, worth a drive. Weddings, Christmas, and community celebrations are held at the church and tours are available to the public. We often don't realize the diverseness of our municipality, so it's important you understand. The Enchant subdivision, as we start to talk about housing and lots and availability, is just finishing. 46 brand new lots are there for purchase. In Hayes, there's 10 residential lots, and in Grassy Lake, there's a subdivision that will be available for purchase in the fall of 2024 or shortly after. Lot details are available on the website. The hamlets provide an affordable housing option with access to amazing amenities throughout our municipality. 2 highway commercial lots are also available in the MD of Taber. Those are right beside the Vauxhall truck stop, which would make a great business opportunity for someone. And we also have commercial lots available in Hayes. Our hamlets, and with housing, it makes it an affordable opportunity for you. So it's something to consider. On the same line of volunteers, we have 83 volunteers that make up our regional fire service. The volunteer chiefs and their firefighters sacrifice time to train and maintain safety in our 6 fire halls 365 days a year. Their families and employers have also made a commitment to our safety by allowing them to go and miss important family opportunities. And for that, our council is forever grateful. We have implemented medical first response with our fire departments. That will make a difference to our safety, but we also have good news to share. The MD of Taber and the town of Vauxhall have been advocating with AHS and EMS to bring ambulance service more consistent back to the town of Vauxhall, which will serve many of our residents. There'll be more details to come, but we have often been without ambulance service on the north side of our municipality, which puts everyone at risk. 2023, our firefighters attended 260 calls. That meant they left their work, their family, and they weren't compensated. They're volunteers. So retention and recruitment is very important. And if you're interested in volunteering, please see our website. We are grateful in times of emergency that the town of Taber and surrounding municipalities provide assistance. We work in conjunction with Vauxhall and Barnwell to have fire halls and to have many dedicated volunteers come from their community. 2023, we partnered with the town of Taber Police, and they were able to provide us a community standard support for our bylaws, roads, and support of rural crime. It has been an excellent partnership, and we have seen great success. RCMP does remain our police force of jurisdiction, and together with Taber Police and RCMP, we feel we're providing the safest place for our residents. A crowning jewel in the MD of Taber is our park north of town. But don't stop there. We have trails and hamlets, volunteer board runs Enchant Park. MD of Taber supports many community-based organizations that manage facilities and provide service and recreation through a grant program. We also have intermunicipal agreements with Barnwell, Vauxhall, and Taber to support their facility programs so that all residents can benefit. One-time grants contribute to the success of things like the Star Theater and the Taber Lost Cause. Our residents also have the opportunity to access 6 libraries in our municipality, including in the hamlets, Barnwell, and Vauxhall. They have become community hubs. Libraries are much more than a place to take up books. They're an opportunity to get an education, receive support, and we are thankful that we have that opportunity for our residents. We also have Chinook Arch, which all the municipalities contribute, but that provides an online resource which you may not be familiar with that is available to you. Family and Community Support Service membership in our area is a pride and importance to us. At this time, we see many families struggling with their mental health and their well-being. FCSS provides support from babies to seniors to ensure that they're living their best lives. We definitely need that help in our community, and Councillor Harris, he's the chair of that board, and he's working hard to ensure that those services are delivered to our community. We also are involved with housing and senior care with Taber and District Housing. We recognize that everywhere housing is an issue, but it's more so a problem for those who don't have resources. So we're trying to find solutions by accessing grants, finding alternative ways to provide safe and affordable housing for our less fortunate and for our seniors. MD of Taber is a proud partner in many of these organizations. Taber Adult Learning, Shooting Foundation, exhibition boards do so much for our community. We support these organizations and many more as we see the benefit to all residents. Mark your calendars for May 11th and 12th. Eagle Spirit Nest Community Association is hosting the first ever powwow with exciting extras. As you can see, as I'm midway through my talk, it's a little bit different than political issues. Today, I wanted to make sure that people understood the diverseness of the MD of Taber, and that all of these things cannot happen without our residents or our partnerships with municipalities and other organizations. I'll continue on to more issue-related things now, but I felt you needed to understand the diverseness of what our community and our council bring to you. So roads are definitely our priority. We have 2,400 kilometers of gravel and hardtop to be maintained. Roads takes up the majority of our budget, and it's a forever issue. There probably isn't a day that goes by that the municipality doesn't receive a call that we're concerned with a culvert, a road, gravel. We do have an ability to have you submit those concerns online with Service Tracker, but we also encourage you to call the office, call your councillor. We can't be everywhere to maintain those roads, but we do our best and try to respond to ensure that our roads are a safe network that we can drive our families and do our business. The Service Tracker app is actually on your table. There's a small pamphlet. Have a look at it. Not only can you put in a complaint about roads, but you can also request information on economic development, or if you have an agricultural concern. Currently, we have a transportation study underway. We're evaluating our roads, the networks, the traffic flow, and to determine how we're going to move forward in the future. How will we be able to financially manage and also ensure that it meets everyone's needs? So there is a survey online. It's only open till February 13th. So if you travel MD roads at any time, we encourage you to take the survey. With that public consultation, we also have 2 others coming up, and we definitely need your input. Our council is open to hearing what you have to say. We don't want to miss anything. So we have doing a review currently of our land use bylaw, and it will have some changes, and it is the guiding document for development. We're very fortunate to have lots of development, but we need to make sure it's controlled and in the best interest of our community. So I hope you'll take part in that. Another area that people don't know or maybe aren't as aware, the MD of Taber has 62,000 acres of agricultural land that are leased to MD residents. This year, we will be reviewing the land management policy, and we'll be looking for insight from everyone in our municipality, whether they're a leaseholder or not. Your input will be very valued. So in the MD of Taber, we are defined by agriculture and those who support the industry. On Canada Census, 1,200 of the 7,500 people in our municipality work in the agricultural sector. Of our land mass, 571,000 acres are dedicated to crop production, and an additional 320 acres are to pasture. Now, those stats might not mean a lot, but it does identify the work that's being done, and it is extremely important that we are the premier ag food corridor, and MD of Taber is the leading edge of it. $806 million of total operating revenue come from agriculture in our area alone. Agriculture is the backbone of our municipality and southern Alberta. We are feeding the world. The region alone contributes $1.8 billion to the economy. The MDU of Taber supports farmers, community, commodity groups, and producers by offering courses and field support. We work together on soil conservation and weed management. As we've gone through the drought, we've seen what's flourished. We see kochia as high as our hip on the side of the road. The MD is trying to get ahead of that, and we need our residents to help us with that, and we are continuing to look for solutions. We work closely with Bow River Irrigation and St. Mary's Irrigation. These districts are part of the Alberta Irrigation Modernization Program. MLA Hunter spoke to this. It is a financial investment in Alberta of $932.7 million funded by the 10 districts, the Government of Alberta, and the Government of Canada through the Canada Infrastructure Bank. I bring you that information so you understand the profound impact irrigation has on our area and the economic return. Not only will those projects provide an incentive for future ag production, it also is improving our area. Reservoirs, pipelines, and then we look to the farmers to improve how they are managing. The increased acres in our region does not only come from a financial input, but more importantly, farmers who made a commitment to the expansion by monitoring how they approach irrigation. On another side of agriculture, life can be stressful. Whether it rains, whether there's too much rain, whether there's hail. We really encourage our residents and any of you who may not live in our MD to be aware of those stresses and to be able to reach out to FCSS or a program that's available called AgNo so you can support family and friends. The MD of Taber recognizes people as our most valuable, as I've said many times. Check in on your neighbors, make sure they're okay. Economic development success is not only bringing in new ventures, but supporting those who are already here. We need to make sure they have access to services and the efficient transportation network, but we do recognize growth is critical to prosperity. Many of our initiatives are tied with the town of Taber and our neighbors, so Mayor Prokop will go further in depth. We have different involvements with Vauxhall and Taber Chamber, a joint economic development committee, and South Grove, all which enables us to capitalize on regional development. Mayor Prokop will also talk about Alberta immigration program that they have. It has been very successful in bringing workers to our area and diversifying our community. These economic development issues are critical, but we could not do them alone. If someone is lucky to land a plant in their area, it will have an economic benefit to everyone. Highway 320 and the development of the world-renowned Canada Food Corridor will elevate our region even more so as a world-class food producer. And we are working with all levels of government and all neighbors to make sure the corridor is a success, but ensures that we still maintain our rural integrity. An area that some of you may be aware of, and it's much more specialized than I am aware, is the Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Project. It's near completion on first phase. Some of you may have experienced the traffic disruption on Highway 36. Thank you for your patience. If you recall the floods of 2011, 13, and 18, where critical infrastructure was at risk, and also a threat to our drinking water, it was important to move forward with this project to ensure resiliency from flooding and ensure that we would be able to protect our most precious water. Phase 2 will start in the fall. The security of our irrigation system will make a pathway for those others who may be interested in investing in the corridor. The Southern Stormwater Drainage Committee has been instrumental, along with the financial support of our municipal partners, including the Town of Taber, St. Mary's Irrigation District, the Government of Alberta, and the Government. Now you wonder why we would be worrying about flood mitigation in a time of drought. It is on our minds as well, but we need to ensure that the safety is in the future. So right now, with the drought, everyone is concerned, and the MD of Taber with our residents will do our part, as every drop matters. We are currently developing a water management strategy in conjunction with the Government of Alberta. We're also lobbying to improve water security through increased on and off stream storage with a priority on Airmore Dam. If you have further questions on this topic, Councillor Harris is the co-chair and has led the committee to ensure we have adequate funding and ensure that the project is being executed as planned. Moving on to a resident highlight. Family farms not only grow the food for the world, but they're community builders. In the MD of Taber, 23 outstanding farm families have been honored by the Calgary Stampede and the Bank of Montreal. These families built the MD of Taber. The 2023 recipient was Chinrid Seeds, the Barani and Hubble family. Now, I didn't know who would be here, but they're here in the audience, so thank you to Chinrid Seeds. This year's award is presented at the Calgary Stampede to a sixth-generation farm, the Riverbend Ranch TNT Pollination, the Torrey family, for their outstanding agricultural practices and community contributions. So thank you as well for the contributions. 2023, we recognized a Century Farm family and their contribution to agriculture, family, and our rural community. Their sacrifice, vision, and hard work built a vibrant and sustainable agricultural industry. This award was presented to the Germania family from the Retlaw. They were also a sixth-generation farm family, so an amazing contribution to the MD's success. In keeping with accomplishments, in 2024, the Municipal District of Taber is celebrating 7 incredible decades of growth, agricultural innovation, and economic development. 89 individuals have served as MD of Taber councillors, led by the first Reeve, Harry Drakes. Our council, along with our predecessors, recognize the 70 years of success is because of our residents and business owners. Their hard work, resiliency, and the vision to grow and continue to develop our municipality as their community and home. An odd plug in the middle of this talk on celebration is the SCAR Notify. It's a paper on your table. Even if you don't live in the MD, it's a good thing to sign up for. You'll receive information on this 70th anniversary event, different consultations, local police alerts, and road bans. The pamphlet is an easy sign up, or you can go to our website. So as we get ready to start the celebrations for our 70th anniversary, we invite you to watch for them and take part. You don't have to be an MD resident. And I'd like to thank everyone in attendance, especially Maria Prokop, Taber Council, MP Shields, who has left us, MLA Hunter, and the other mayors who are here, and also Minister Scow, who is our MLA for across the river. And also our residents and our friends for your unwavering support and guidance. There's no municipality who can operate without the help of their people. As we mark the 70th anniversary of the MD of Taber, let's celebrate our shared journey and look forward to continued success in agriculture, business, and family for today and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Gareth Beckering, who's in attendance today as well, and Councillor Crowley Firth, also in attendance. Councillor Monica McLean, Councillor Daniel Renford, Councillor Joanne Sorensen, and Councillor Jack Bruin were not able to attend today. Also, I have to thank Chris Quinn very much for his attendance and willingness to take part in the MC requirements. And that's a big job, and he's done a great job, as he always does. And also, thank you so much, Chris, for your phenomenal sound system. That's a tremendous improvement, for sure. So, I'd also like to thank my other colleagues as well, Emily Grant Hunter, Reeve Hammerby Nagin, as well as MP Shields has now left us virtually. And thank you to all of you in attendance for attending. And this is a big part of this, and it's so important to be part of this event today. And all things considered, today is all about celebration of successes and information, informing accordingly, transparency, and everything attached to that. So bottom line is we're looking at all, have everybody on the same page with everything we've got going on in Taber and the region. And that's very important, and hope to get that message out today. So very happy to report on everything going on in the region, in our area at this moment. So I'll start off with business license activity. 2023 is a banner year for the town of Taber with a record year of 50 new businesses. That's a phenomenal number, 50 new businesses. The previous record was actually 45, so a 10% increase, and around 10% increase in any capacity. That includes 33 new resident storefront businesses license issued, 17 resident home occupation licenses as well, along with 36 new temporary and non-resident business licenses issued. A total of 601 active licenses within the town of Taber. Reeve being mentioned the AAIP program, the Alberta Advantage Integration Program, which is a huge improvement for the town of Taber area. And delighted to be partnered with many communities across the region, including the MDA of Taber, the Lethbridge County, Coaldale, Picture Butte, Milk River, Karsten, Raymond. The AAIP program has brought profound economic gains to the region. Local business owners first approached the town of Taber and requested we apply for the AAIP designation, as the labor shortage was threatening to disrupt or even close their business. Owners were experiencing losses and having to modify service due to the labor shortages. The AAIP program brought stability to our community and the region. The AAIP program has channeled a valuable workforce to our area for employers to draw from, with a total of 50 local businesses. 50 local businesses utilize the program, and so far, employers have made 160 job offers to individuals endorsed by the community. Occupations across multiple sectors are represented, including service industry, trucking, healthcare, IT, trades, manufacturing, and more. A lot of business not just to get by, but to expand their operation, and in a few cases, open second businesses as well. Once again, we've endorsed 160 candidates through the program, and that's 160 full-time jobs within the region that have been filled. With these 58 businesses represented, they are various sectors, including service industry, transport and logistics, healthcare, school board, trades, manufacturing, and more. All businesses are required to advertise and recruit locally first. If the owner is unable to find a suitable candidate locally, they may utilize the program to fill that position. Of the 33 storefront businesses mentioned previous, 12 of those can be directly tied to the AAIP program. The unemployment rate for Alberta South Zone for November 2023 was 4.3%, which is 1.6% lower than the actual 5.9% average for the same period. Our region is represented by high participation rates and hard-working Albertans. The AAIP program will help to fill the gaps that exist and strengthen our workforce even further. Regional partnering activities includes the economic development partnerships, and that, as such, Canada's premier food corridor, which is huge for the Taber area, and more to come. The Canada Premier Food Corridor is an effort to brand our region as a place to be when it comes to anything to do with the agri-food business. Canada's premier food corridor is in consortium of economic development professionals from within our region working together to advance the agri-food industry in southern Alberta. A collaborative approach will ensure that the CPFC region is ready for all agri-food development. Together with Lethbridge County, City of Lethbridge, Coaldale, and MD of Taber, the town of Taber is a proud partner. With a variety of crops grown in the region, our long warm summers and the heat units and the irrigation attached to that and the ease of transportation in our region is expected to grow. The CPFC is funded by Prairies Canada and currently employ 2 full-time and 1 part-time personnel who are dedicated to promoting the region. The Joint Economic Development Committee also is related to the regional committee attended by Barnwell, the MD of Taber, Boxell, Community Futures, South Grow, and the Taber Chamber of Commerce. This committee is dedicated to our region and supports local initiatives. The JADC is a diverse group of locals who understand the strengths of our region and are motivated to promote the area. Last year, the JADC hosted their first annual Taber's Table, a long table dinner event featuring a local menu and team, and a very, very successful event. This event was a hit, and we look forward not only to the next long table event, but to the growth of the agri-food sector in a broader sense. Educating our communities and the world of the importance of the agriculture and enjoying the delicious outcomes. We are already planning for the 2024 Taber's Table, and we're excited for the opportunity to explore the food that is grown in our backyard. Taber's Table is a celebration of the great things that are produced right here in Taber and area. The MD of Taber and the town of Taber partner together to reach some economic goals and economic development. Having a regional approach with each entity having different offers will make us both stronger and result in a clear vision for our region. We are building a strong foundation for future growth and are excited to see what this will bring. The town of Taber, Taber Police Service, MD of Taber, the Village of Barnwell have also collaborated, as has been mentioned, on a bylaw enforcement services model to provide the CPO and/or bylaw services to those areas. That collaboration did begin in 2022 with the MD of Taber and expanded to Barnwell in 2023, and thus far has been a very, very successful partnership. Touching on economic development activity, the Highway 3, Highway 320 expansion is a hot topic still. Mr. Bill Chapman's attested to that today, and we're all very excited about that as well, and all excited that our Emily Grant Hunter and the UCP government has committed to that, to the next steps for a groundbreaking sometime this spring, soon to be announced. As a result, new business and larger scale business will be able to move their products easily through our transportation corridors. On to irrigated acres. Back in 2020, the federal and provincial government announced the Alberta's Irrigation Modernization Program to invest in irrigation infrastructure with the goal of stimulating the economy and increasing irrigation. As part of that collaboration, St. Mary's Irrigation, our region, has 30 modernization projects equated to $206 million in investment. Add to that the $120 million Chin Reservoir expansion, and we will see $326 million of upgrades and modernization in the next years that will increase our irrigated acres and water security. As part of the overall $933 million irrigated expansion project, the program will create approximately 230,000 more acres of irrigated land has also been suggested and in the works to make sure that happens. Related to the Chin Reservoir expansion, again, water is most certainly vital to our economy and in all walks of life. And as an MLA Grant Hunter, water is the new gold. That's absolutely true. And it couldn't be any truer than it is today. And we've all seen years of drought and water restrictions in the past, but as a result, this project has a part of a larger plan that will be able to provide water security for our region and ensuring farmers and producers have the water they need to be successful. Construction slated to begin in 2025 and continue through 2028. Also very evident of the expansion and/or the investment in the region is the McCain $660 million plant expansion that is earmarked to be completed within the next year or so, and is going to generate another 260 jobs and employment. Touching on shopping center commercial spaces, another exciting adventure. This past year is going to, this next year is going to be very exciting, but the past year was exciting as well leading up to this. And with at least 18 new commercial spaces coming available on the Highway 3 location, frontage, opening the business in town through nationwide stores, independent businesses, and offering lease space to local businesses. Many of you have already or seen the new development happening over on Martin Drive. This facility being built is in 2 stages and will host 3 nationwide stores as well as lease space for local business and new towns business. We are very excited to share that Shoppers Drug Mart, Dollarama, Barbarito, and Edo Japan have been confirmed as tenants along with the possibility of a large chain grocery store. These 3 separate projects along Highway 3 are also going to generate some 100 employees required to work in the 18 businesses suggested. As far as tax incentives, over the past 2 years, Tabortown Council has been seeking out ways to help local businesses and provide more housing units. The investment incentive bylaw was passed to allow for businesses that are building or renovating their current location who can apply for a 5-year tiered tax exemption. That tax incentive starts the year after occupancy. Year 1 and 2, 100% exemption on municipal taxes. Year 3, 75%. Year 4, 50%. Year 5, 25% exemption. This also includes new builds and companies that are renovating or expanding and increase assessment at least 25%. The residential tax incentive bylaw was recently passed to offer a 4-year tiered tax exemption on anything that creates new inventory in town, new homes, new manufactured homes, multifamily use, and even applies to creation of legal secondary suites. The tax incentive starts the year after occupancy. Year 1, 100% exemption. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. Garth, I'm going to take you up on that later. Right, sorry. Actually, year 1, 100% tax exemption on municipal tax. Year 2, 75% exemption. Year 3, 50% exemption. Year 4, 25% exemption. For the creation of legal secondary suites, the incentive applies also to the suite only. As far as recreation information, can't overlook the Tabor Trout Pond. That's an ongoing project that has been going on since 2016 within the town of Tabor and area. The Trout Pond has continued to evolve, and we now have a $400,000 grant, specifically a tree grant, allowing us for enhancement of expansion and day use facility, camp kitchen expansion, and or the existing expansion of the camping sites, to name a few. With that, the irrigation piece is attached to $400,000 tree, so within a year things are going to look quite different and quite an enhancement out there as well. We have to give credit to the Trail 77 group, a group of 200 members strong that are continuing to evolve and build the trail system out there, as well as a pump track that's due to start in the spring. Already have some use out there, but that official one will happen this spring. Also, community garden that's also being set up to near the parking area location for this year, for the first year, the host of community garden. Also, plans for the horse to be allowed out there for the active riders are also going to be allowed back at the Trout Pond through a tri-party agreement along with the town of Tabor. That includes the runners group, the Trail 77 group, as well as the town of Tabor and Trail 77, as I said, and the Satchel is what I missed, the Satchel Horse Group. And that 3 tri-party is going to work together. They have worked together. They have an agreement in place, and we're looking forward to see how that works out there on a year trial. But hopefully, all things considered, that's going to work out for the duration and allow that recreation piece to continue as well. Good news story for economic development 2023. Once again, 2023 was a huge year for growth and investment in Taber and the region. There are strong foundations being built to promote a stable and successful economy into the future. This past year Taber was put on the map not only with the immigration program with investors as well. Come from our own business owners from around the province, out of province, and even international entrepreneurs and developers came here to take part in what's happening in the Taber area. New developments in our business sector are promoting residential expansion. Taber is drawing attention of investors with our balanced economy, low cost of doing business, and affordable living. Additionally, our proactive approach on building the workforce through immigration is a bonus for those with growth on the horizon. However, these aren't the only things putting Taber on the map. Our actual location on the map is a huge factor. With the proximity to the U.S. and larger centers and direct access to high-low transportation routes, we are literally the actual place to be. Many have seen a need or had an opportunity in town and jumped on it. Things that we seen that were needed for us to continue growing: housing, labor, daycares, transportation, and commercial building activities all bring other business with them. As you look around town, you will see many physical evidences of growth popping up around us, and that is just a start. The town is working very hard to support the work of our entrepreneurs. We know that through collaboration, we can create a catalyst for new ideas and initiatives to further drive the economy. Recently, a developer was simply driving through the town of Taber, stopped to see what Taber was all about and what they had to offer, and decided here was a great place to be. This is the new Otis Developments property in the town, opening the shopping program in Dollarama, which houses 10 businesses at location. Taber does have a long history of hard work, entrepreneurship, and community, making this a great place for like-minded people to come. We are very excited for the future of our community for growth, stability, and maturity as we venture into 2024. We are very grateful for the hard work and great ideas of the Team Taber, for our elected officials, town administration, community groups, businesses, and the residents. Each of you contributed to the success we are celebrating today, and what a year of success it was. As we reflect on our growth, we can look forward to a bright, stable, and vibrant future. Taber truly is a great place to grow. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming and participating. I very much look forward to the dialogue piece as well. And I have to thank our CEO, Mr. Darren Siebel, and the Taber Town staff, and all that made this happen today. And thank you also for participating once again. And I look forward to the question and answer period as well. Thank you.
Thank you again to all of our dignitaries for speaking today. At this time, we are well ahead of schedule. Fantastic. We would like to open up the podium and the questions to anyone from the forum, please.
I'd like to bring greetings from the Taber and Area Cowboy Heritage Society. We hope to become a society. Last year's Cowboy Poetry Gathering, who all came? The Babranis, there's a bunch of you. It was very successful. We had a benefit for a cowboy that broke his neck in a bronc wreck, and we've got another one coming up on the 13th of April, and we want to thank the town and the MD for their help in providing and helping us with this. I got thinking, who was here before the ranchers? Fishers and hunters, right? Indigenous people. And right after them, who was next? The hospitality industry, right? Fort Hip Up. And then came the RCMP, or the Northwest Mounted Police, to try and make sure that things went a little better than what they were going to go. And then came the ranchers. So the ranchers have been a long time. And as cowboy poetry, Western music people, we're trying to remind and remember the benefits and the things that our ancestors have done. And we're trying to bring young folks in and perform and help them in growth and development now. Mayor Polka performed last year. I did too. And I noticed nobody threw anything and nobody threw up. So I think we're on a roll. I think the mayor's planning on performing again, and I'm trying to do some practicing so I can perform. And if anybody has grandkids or kids, if there's any way that they can be talked into coming and performing, we'd love that. Thank you.
And if there's anyone that would like me to come to you, I can make the microphone available. Ms. Horrocks? Perfect.
Hey, this is for Grant Hunter. I want to know if the government is seriously considering affordable housing as a crisis. The other question is, the town of Taber and the MD has graciously gone into partnership with us in Clearview Lodge for the renovations. Is the government going to step up and help us? The other one is rolling blackouts. We come very close. Is the government taking concerns with this?
So, I'll start with the last one, and then we can talk about the others. In terms of rolling blackouts, what happened in the last cold spell is indication that we need to have more base load coming on. Now here's the problem we're dealing with. Base load is, it cannot be non-renewable. It has to be non-renewable. It has to be like natural gas or coal. Now back in 2015, the government at the time decided that they were going to accelerate the phase out of coal. And at the time, in 2015, the cost for a kilowatt of electricity was 1.5 cents. And that was for coal. For natural gas, it was 3 cents. I remember them saying, we're going to move to natural gas. It's only 3 cents. I said, well, that's a 100% increase, just so you know. Input costs, that's a 100% increase. Now, as you all know, and you've looked at your utility bills, it's nowhere near 3 cents now, is it? And this is the reason why, is because throughout the world, they all decided to move away from coal, other than China and India and the BRIC countries. They're taking coal as fast as they can get it. So here's the problem we have. Right now, they've transitioned us off of coal. We haven't been able to bring on the natural gas as quick as we'd like. But the other thing that's happened is the federal government has said, they've actually passed into law, that any companies after 2035 that actually bring on natural gas or any non-renewable resource could go to jail. So a CEO could go to jail. Do you think they want to go to jail? Obviously not. And so we're having a hard time convincing them to bring on this base load, which is the natural gas. This is the struggle we're having right now when it comes to being able to make sure that we have enough electricity, enough natural gas to be able to provide for the utilities of Albertans. You know, I'm not anti-renewable resources. Wind and solar are in place. Here's the problem is it's not always wind, it's not always sun. And so if you think that you can use that as your base load, there's no jurisdiction in the world that does it. And so when we had that when we had that cold spell, and the federal government was, Stephen Guilbeault was saying, hey, we need to actually have more, we need to have 1 million cars in Alberta as EVs, electric vehicles. We couldn't handle 15,000 electric vehicles on electrical vehicles on the grid. When it gets cold, it's not easy to be able to provide for all the needs. We have the ability to provide about 22,000 megawatts of electricity. But we pushed so high at that point that we had to buy from Montana, BC, and Saskatchewan. We had to pull in order to be able to provide what we had. And guess what Montana was providing us, what electricity they were providing us? Coal generator. Like, you can't make this stuff up. This is like, this is not even a good novel. So I just think, look, if we could innovate our way out of out of our natural resources. We could innovate our way into, storage, battery storage, to that. But just so you know, the cost of that is prohibitive. It's very expensive to be able to do that. I think Premier Smith has been very clear on the cost of that. So we want to make sure that everybody has utilities at a fair price. In 2015, Alberta and Texas had the lowest utility prices in North America. That's the reality. And then some governments in between there decided they were going to mess things up. And now we are seeing some of the highest cost utilities. People are having to choose, a fixed income, having to choose whether or not they're going to keep the lights on, the heater up, or eat. This is unacceptable. And so we actually had to invoke Alberta Sovereignty Act on this issue. We said we're not doing it. We're not going to go to net zero by 2035. I don't know if you knew that, but this is one of those nuclear options, right? We don't want to go there, but Alberta's first, Ottawa second. So when it comes to housing, affordable housing, there's a couple of ways to approach that. First of all, we are spending record amounts on affordable housing in Alberta right now. The problem is that we had 200,000 people move in to our province last year. 2 Lethbridges. We cannot build the houses fast enough. And so this is a good problem to have, but it is a problem that we're going to try to work through. When we jumpstart our economy and we actually get that Alberta Advantage going, there are good problems to have. We've had this before. We've had those times. We had this during Ralph Klein's time. So we do know what it looks like, but we cannot build the houses fast enough. Now, as the past red tape reduction minister, I will tell you, we've got far too many hoops we've got to jump through to be able to build those houses. We need to be able to get them in the ground and get them built faster. And there's ways we can do that. I've presented to municipal affairs ministers in terms of a new home warranty issues that we're dealing with, building code stuff that is redundant, that makes people trip over themselves. There's so much more we can do. So yes, I agree with you, we need to build more houses, and there are things that we can do, and we are trying to work on that. There was a third one as well. Did I miss one?
New Lodge.
Oh. So, the budget is coming out in a couple of weeks. You'll have to stay tuned. It's a terrible thing to say, but I cannot speak to what's going to be in the budget.
Thank you, Ms. Works. Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Moderator Chris. And thank you to Grant, Tamara, and Andy for the presentation. It was very well done. We appreciate it. But a politician shouldn't talk on not a politician, right? So I'll be very short. My question is for Grant. Grant, when Jason Kenney announced the 20 3 years ago, was $150 million was mentioned. Did I hear you say that they had $200 million?
I guess I did slip that out. In that time, we had this thing called inflation. And, every project is running about, every project in the province is running at least a 30% premium price now because of inflation. So yeah, you did hear me right. I'll say the 200 million mark, because I do know what the number is, but I can't say it until it actually is gone out. So yeah, you know, we go from $150 million to $200 million, cool $50 million. At least we're still getting it built, you know, because sometimes there's been some situations where they're like, well, you're over budget, we're not building it. So they're still committed to building it. And they are also still committed to building out the full Highway 320 between Saskatchewan and BC, which is a big, big win that we got when Premier Smith announced that. And that would be well over $2 billion when it's all built out, and that's going to be over a 10-year period. So they're doing the functional studies, and they're working pretty fast with that. Darren Davidson, who's the Southern rep, I speak to him on a regular basis, and he seems to think we're on schedule for being able to get that built out in 10 years. That's going to be huge. Like, that is going to be an absolutely huge move to this region. And it's a big part of what we're trying to do to build out this agri-food processing corridor.
Thank you, sir.
My question for Grant, I think primarily perhaps to Laura. You mentioned that you talked about the 20 of Highway 3 is contributing to the economic corridor there. We have an issue east of Grassy Lake. The highway gives good access, the new routing, good access to the west end of Grassy Lake, but on the east end of Grassy Lake, there's no access. We have Viterra, high throughput terminal there. There's also a startup precast concrete business that's trying to get in there and buying land, also I think east end rather. I did some rough math. We're talking about thousands of Super Bs, thousands of semis every year that would potentially be routed past the little Chamberlain School. The highway is right there. The only alternative right now is Viterra is possibly contemplating building their own road to hook up. That seems like this is a major omission. Arnold has access east, both sides. We need a little bit of help there as well.
So, Mr. Tory, I'm aware of that situation. I thank you for bringing it up. We're trying to work through that right now to make sure that that's done right, and I recognize it's very valuable.
Thank you all for your presentations, and this is for MLA Hunter. Would you comment on the recent establishment of the Alberta office in Ottawa?
So, you know, if you listen to the media, you'd think that we're always at war with Ottawa, but it's not true. Mostly it's true, but we're not always at war. So, in the spirit of trying to be able to work together, we've decided to open up an advocacy office there so that we can do that proper lobbying that Alberta needs to do there. There's other provinces that do that. And so this is an effort to show that we want to talk. We want to be able to discuss. We want to be able to ask the hard questions and hear the hard answers. And so that's why we're opening up there. We're also doing that in other places as well. Washington, D.C., we recognize that we need to do better at our communications. There's other locations throughout the world that we're actually opening up offices for Invest Alberta. And our ag sector is really doing a lot of sales pitches in terms of opening up offices as well in other jurisdictions, Asia, Germany, France. So, you know, we think we have a great value proposition. We've got a great story to tell. Most people don't even know where Alberta is, let alone Southern Alberta. And so we want to go out and tell that story. We want to go tell, it's interesting how many people in Ottawa don't know what we're doing here either. And so we have to do better at telling the story, and that's why we're here.
Mr. Hunter, you might as well stay there for a minute. My question is, about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we had a meeting over at the Heritage, and that was in regards of the transmission lines, but being given away. If you look at your power, our power is reasonable, but there's our transmission. The question was at that time that I made was, how
how can you give our transmission lines away? And the short answer was, if you want power in the future, we have to do this. We need to get companies to invest in power lines and transmission lines. We're 25 years later, and we have to make decisions, like you said, food or power. So when are we going to get our transmission lines that was promised many years ago, and get the power back down, or the transmission down, less than what the power is costing us? Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I apologize, but I didn't get everything what you said, but I will. I think hopefully I got it. If I don't get everything, just maybe let me know. So everybody knows transmission, distribution, and retail side. Back 25 years ago, they broke it up, and they sold the idea that you have free markets, supply and demand will create the equilibrium price and drive down the price. Did it work? Absolutely. On the retail side, the problem is distribution and transmission is still regulated rates. These are still regulated, and only certain groups can actually get in to own that asset. And so, the Oracle of Omaha recognized that, so it gets a 7.8% guaranteed return on investment every year. I've always said it should have completely been deregulated. The whole thing should have been deregulated. Let markets determine price. We have shown for a long time that when you do that, you can really drive down the price because competition will do that. But we haven't done that. So now we're in a situation where, fast forward 2.5 decades, and we're seeing that the real cost and increased cost has been in the transmission and the distribution side. Well, what's interesting is when the NDP were in, I apologize, when another government was in, I vowed I wouldn't do that at these. When another government was in, they were like, you know what, we need to fix this. We need to go from a demand market to a capacity market. You've probably heard these words before. And the whole idea was, with the demand market, with the retail side, they said, we have, what the price of the cost of that utility is going to, that electricity or electron is going to be, is determined by how many people are actually selling their product in. And so oftentimes it would drive that down because people are, they want to get theirs on. So it drove the price down. We had the lowest retail prices in North America with Texas and us because we were the only two that were on that demand-only market. Capacity market means that basically you sell contracts to companies to provide the capacity if you need it. They don't have to produce it. You're paying for the potential of doing 24,000 megawatts, even though you don't provide 24,000 megawatts all the time. And so when this other government got in, they said, we're going to change, we're going to go to a capacity market, which would have driven up the price. It would have been consistently high at that time. And we luckily got in, we said, no, that's not happening, we're going to stay with the demand market. Now, when it comes to transmission and distribution, I will give the past governments credit in terms of, we have an intertie with Montana, Saskatchewan, BC, and we don't use it a huge amount, but when we do need to use it, it's actually very helpful. Like, for instance, when it got really cold, we had to buy from all three of those. And we were grateful to get it. And guess what we paid? $999.99. This was like, that's the highest we can charge. So they had us across the barrel, and they exacted a lot of money from us. But at that point, we needed it because we could not do it here. And so we were willing to pay for it. So the intertie actually worked in that situation. Is it worth that? Well, and if you were, during that time, you'd say it is worth it. When you're having to pay for that on your transmission lines, on your utility bill, you probably don't think it's worth it at that point. So there's pros and cons to it. But I will say that I still am a big believer. I just haven't convinced any premier that I've been working with or any of my colleagues that we need to actually deregulate the whole thing. But I would be very surprised if we get there. But that, you asked me my opinion, that's my opinion. Now, I don't know if I answered all your questions there because I couldn't completely understand what you said there.
This question is for our MLA. Grant, I'm sorry to make you jump up and down. This is a difficult question to ask, and so I'm sure it must be very hard to answer, but anybody who's been to a city, a major city, Calgary and Edmonton particularly, but Lethbridge as well, knows about the unspeakable horrors of the addiction problem and all of the things that walk hand in hand with that. Affordable housing, and I do mean very affordable, even cheap housing, the dangers of riding the LRT in the metros and transit, and just the rise in petty crime. Now we're seeing that even here in the smaller communities. So recognizing that this is an urban problem, I wonder how you folks are working with the mayors of the urban centers and the smaller centers to help stop this.
So this is about crime. I didn't hear it yet. I think I don't know if it's my hearing or not.
No, I think it's the way I'm speaking. Crime, but linked to the addiction problem. The addiction.
Oh, addiction, sorry.
Opioid, primarily. And how you are working, your government is working with the mayors of various centers to help curb this, and of course that includes cheap housing, access to Medicare, making transit safe, because it certainly isn't now, no matter what the numbers are.
Yeah.
Or at least it's not if you're a victim.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So mental health and addiction is, so when we did the revamp for healthcare, we actually split that out of AHS because we really feel like it's a major issue in our society, not just our society, but most societies in first world countries. So we're spending the most we've ever spent on this by a country mile in terms of mental health and addiction. But it is like this tsunami. It is, since COVID, it's a tsunami. It is overwhelming our societies. It's not helpful that there were some policies by past governments that I think were making it more difficult for people to be able to break that chain of addiction. And so we've taken a different approach. Rather than safe consumption sites, we are taking an approach of people need dignity back in their lives. As long as they're on the consuming drugs, they are never going to be able to break it. They're never going to feel like have any self-worth. So we're building communities, and we built one in our riding here, and one on the blood reserve is going to go there as well. And then there's a few more that will be going around the province. These communities are specifically designed to be able to give them the treatment they need. It can be up to a year or even more, and they're going to have peer tutelage. We now have people from all over the world coming to our province to say, what are you guys doing? Because we actually we think we're on the right track here. And I think that it actually speaks to the way that we look at an individual. Do we see them as a true individual, a person who has innate worth? Or do we see them as a cost to society, a throwaway generation? I've heard all of those terms. It's deplorable. What I believe is that each individual has innate worth. And our approach has to be that they can get back that dignity in their life. But it's good, there's lots of work that needs to be done. So we're doing we're doing this strategy. It's an expensive strategy. but we've seen it. BC actually did a beta test of it. They were very successful. That's how it came over here. And they've moved right away from it now. They're going back to safe consumption sites, which is, you know, it was devastating to that, but you saw what happened there. It was a free-for-all there. The business was moving away from those areas. They couldn't even keep it going. Nobody wanted to come into those areas. It was unsafe. So there's that part. When someone leaves, they need to have a place. I said that earlier. They need to have a place. In terms of affordable housing, first of all, you can't do enough affordable housing, right? That would take up all your budget in your government if you had to address all of the affordable housing needs. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take an approach of, let's get them to stand on their own 2 feet. Let's help them. Let's lift them up. Let's be caring for individuals, and then let's help them to figure out how to be able to get into maybe a rental, maybe into a place of their own in time. And this takes a long time to be able to help these people go from an addiction to that point. But I think we've got the right approach, and the cost to society when we don't do it right is higher crime, is broken families. And so we need to do better at it. And I think that we're on the right approach, right strategy. I really feel very strongly about what we're doing on this, so that individuals can feel that dignity back in their lives. And then, you know, it's a long game, guys. It doesn't get fixed overnight. We didn't get here overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. So please be patient with us on this. We are spending a lot of money on this mental health and addictions. So stay with us on this, because I think that we're on the right track.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I believe there's a follow-up to that.
Thank you, Grant. To talk about the crime involved, in Taber we're seeing an uptick in petty crime, vehicles and that kind of thing, not stolen vehicles, breaking into vehicles. But is the province of Alberta working with federal and international police to get to the powers that be in the drug world? Because picking up the dealer, who is usually a user, him or herself, does nothing. And this will be my last question. Thank you.
Yes, we are, but remember that's a federal issue. That's a good question that you should ask to MP Shields. So I have a property that got robbed 4 times in 3 years. They stole everything from my skid steer to whatever. Actually, my toilet plunger. It was my favorite toilet plunger too. They stole it. And they robbed us, like they robbed everything. It was like they were a cringe. And so I just finished the other day. It was last year in January. We finally caught the person. I put up trail cams, and I had security systems, I had everything, and they just got in. So this guy finally got caught, and I wanted to just see. I just wanted to see how this judicial system works, right? Because I'd heard lots of people come to me and say, for goodness sakes, Grant, we got to do something. These guys can't just get a slap on the wrist and be out on bail and re-offending. It's just not safe for people, and people aren't feeling safe in their own homes. So I wanted to see how it would all play out. I didn't want to tell them that I was an MLA. They found out somehow, but the Crown prosecutor is explaining to me how the process is working. And quite frankly, I couldn't tell whether or not she was the Crown prosecutor or the defense lawyer. Isn't that sad? I'm thinking to myself, for goodness sakes, I've been a parent. I've got 5 children. I got 7 grandchildren. I know that, you know what, if you just say to this kid, oh, it's okay, they'll go do it again. You got to have the consequence, got to meet the crime. And so I wanted to see what would happen with this person. They would not give me any information on the person that was caught. There were 3 people that were caught, 2 white guys and a white lady. And the one guy got caught. He didn't give up his accomplices, and the police never asked. I remember talking to Mayor Prokop, who's asked police officer. He's like, he was shocked at this whole situation. I'm just telling you this because you know that judiciary is separate from provincial and federal jurisdictions, right? And they get pretty cranky when you tell them what they're to do, right? They're like, no. So you know, the Constitution is specific. It says federal, provincial, and judicial. And they, Premier Smith got her, she got slapped. She got spanked on this one because she was trying to tell them, what they can do, what they can't do in judicial. Well, at least that's what they said that she was trying to do. So they really don't like it when we get in on that. But this is, in my opinion, the biggest problem we have is that the people are willing to offend because they don't get the consequences to their action. They get nothing. Slap on the wrist and they're out. The guy that I found out this afterwards because you can't find out until after they get charged, or not charged, but their sentencing, is that this guy, when he offended at my place, was on bail from another, and he had a record as long as his arm. And I'm thinking to myself, had that guy gone to jail, he could have done it to me. But the judge decided, no, we'll let you out on bail, and he was serving in his community, in his home. That was, and the federal government has liberalized these rules to the point now where the judges are being told, we don't have room we don't want to spend as much money in prisons and stuff like that, so I want you to, kind of do it more in the homes. And that's where they kind of serve out their sentence, in the home, and then they reoffend. So I just think that we got to, police officers here, they're like, yeah, we deal with this all the time. Are we actually helping to be able to kind of catch these guys? We are doing what we can. We have tried to bring forward some ideas, and Alberta Police Force was an idea that we had. You know what? It wasn't that popular. People were like, no, let's not do that. But at least it was an idea, it was a thought, let's try to see if we can fix this thing. And at the end of the day, it was, Albertans just really weren't that interested in it. So we'll try to do the best we can, but Albertans have to come with us, It's even like the Alberta pension plan. I'm surprised I didn't get that question. I'm sure I was going to get that question 8 times. I could show you the value proposition for that. The media will not tell you the value proposition for it, and the opposition won't tell you the value proposition for it. I can show you that. But Albertans weren't there. We couldn't bring them with us on that. We could save Albertans $5 billion a year just by doing our own thing. We tried to say all that stuff, and they're like, nah, it's not going to work. We don't want it. Fine. Then we won't do it. That's the way that it works. It's democracy. But that's the same sort of thing we're dealing with the policing, not the policing, they're phenomenal people. The police chief here, I know him very well. He's a good friend. And, they're trying to do the best they can. The police officers I talk to, they're demoralized. They're like, we put them in jail, or we charge them, and they get out. We deal with these guys all the time, regularly. It happens so much. And people, regular citizens that are actually people that build societies, they're getting frustrated, they're getting burned out. And we have got to do something about that. I hope that Pierre Poilievre wins, because I know that he will actually do something about that issue.
Thank you, Minister. We still have plenty of time, ladies and gentlemen, if there's any other questions for any of our esteemed members of the panel.
I have the question. This is Ellen Conrad talking. I am a resident of the MD, and I appreciate the time taken by our presenters today to share with us their vision, their progress, their concerns, and where we're at so that we can understand it a little bit better. I really appreciate that. More people should be here perhaps. But I do, maybe I'm behind the game, maybe I don't really understand, and perhaps several of you might bring me up to speed, but I can appreciate it's an irrigation issue. I can appreciate that the flood mitigation needs to be done during drought season. That makes sense to me because then the water is down and you can work. What I don't understand is that we have industry expanding, and perhaps we'll talk about McCain and others. We're going to expand Chin, and actually we're relying on rain to have more water. We don't actually get more water unless it rains. I suppose the snowpack brings it to us, but that's only if we get snow. And so my question is, how do these progressive projects help us if it doesn't rain?
Thank you, Ellen. So I'm going to give you my version, and then I'll see if Councillor Harris would like to add. So the one thing I know, and just being a farmer, is the change in how we approach watering. It's changed substantially, and we were doing the math on how we're going to water if we don't get rain, based on allocations and all of the moving parts, and how it was going to change which crops we grow. It does seem odd to me that we're going to run a business not only just on prayer. So we're there, but even in business, we're seeing them use their efficiencies. They're reusing water. They're having their own water treatment plants. It's not just released and down the sewer, right? We're expecting them to do more. As far as how much we can expand with businesses, I don't have a good answer for that. I'm not technical in that way. It makes me nervous, makes me not sleep to not have water, and it has nothing to do with me being on MD Council. It makes me wonder what direction we're going to go. So maybe I'll ask Councillor Harris if he wants to add based on the drainage project or his own thoughts. Do you want to add? Yes, please do. You can come, we'll have Councillor Harris come forward, then he doesn't have to hold the mic.
Specialist, and I'm not. But from what I understand, the expansion of the irrigation districts, the licenses and water, non-water, the amount of acres that they're going to do is, most of it's getting through efficiencies in the system. And Mr. McClawchuk maybe should be the one to come up and answer this question since he was a chair of TID for a number of years. But that's what I understand is because of the efficiencies gained in the system, and Mr. Tory could answer the same thing because he was chair of SMRD, is because in the older system, if you want to call it that, when there was open ditches and whatnot, like there'd always be return flow down the ditches, and that water that wasn't able to be used. When you put it onto the pipeline, those return flows are stopped, or they don't have that any longer. So there's an efficiency gain, or there's less water used throughout the irrigation district. And so there's more water the same amount of water can be used in more acres. And again, I should probably let either one of Mr. Tory or McClawchuk come answer this question. Does that help answer your question at all, Ellen? Or, like I said, the speaker was turned, and it was real hard for us to hear exactly what the question was.
guess, speaker problem.
I think it helps, but I think I'm getting a little nervous as I hear the province is doing their drought mitigation discussions and saying all the irrigation districts have to share with others in the province, it seems. And where is everybody getting the water from that we're going to share?
I was at an irrigation conference this week, the Alberta Irrigation Districts Association annual meeting, and the discussion was around what are we going to do if we don't get more water, more snow. And first and foremost, human consumption is number one priority. That's the number one priority. Beyond that, everyone said we'll do our part to share. We'll all have to do less. Every municipality is willing to do less or to take less water. As individuals at our homes and in our yards, we have to maybe take less this year. I remember in 2001 was another serious drought year, and we went into 2002, I think 8 inches, does that sound about right, is what we thought we were going to be allotted. And in one weekend, we had the problem fixed. Mother Nature fixed the problem. We had 7 or 8 inches of rain that weekend. Everybody's yards, everybody's fields were flooded, but the reservoirs were filled back up. Is it going to happen again? All I can say is I hope we get enough water, enough snow in the mountains to fix the problem for this year. What you really need to know is everybody's going to do their share. There was people there at the conference from the city of Calgary talking about what they were going to do to lower their consumption. But the number one thing that I got out of the conference, or one of the things that I got out, was human consumption and needs first. Everybody else is willing to share.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Minister with the follow-up.
I'll just reiterate that, the work that the province is doing right now in terms of standing up committees to study this and make sure they've got our systems in place. This is just a case. We still have March, February, March to be able to see how that snowpack is going to be up in the mountains. We had a couple of good days of snow just last couple of days. So yeah, I've been saying to people, look, it's too early to start saying, drought. We are dealing kind of with drought conditions, but as you know, it's levels of drought. And it's just, what we're trying to do is we're trying to communicate with Albertans. With that, though, sometimes it gets people scared, right? They're thinking, oh my goodness, we've got a drought, what's going to happen? And sometimes you have over-caffeinated bureaucrats that, send out letters that cause, all sorts of problems and issues and concerns. But generally speaking, what's supposed to be going out is we're trying to just be preparing for every eventuality. And that's what is necessary. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what you want us to do. Now, I hope that it doesn't get to that. I hope that, like in 2001, we had that $1 billion rain, and I hope that we get that sort of thing again. But we've got to be prepared just in case. But there are certainly everybody that is involved in terms of water licenses. They are very much recognize what they need to do to be able to make sure everybody has drinking water, water for household uses first. Now, put this in context though, in 2001, so 23 years ago, we were in far worse of a situation than we are today, in that today we have 30% more efficiencies in the system, so we put a whole bunch of money into the system so that it actually brings the water, rather than flowing over, it's in pipes now. So we've found 30% efficiencies, and we have 18% more irrigated land. But it's we're in a better position today than we were back in 2001 to be able to weather this potential drought.
And then you've done that as a we statement, whereas I've noticed in our operation over bill for building those pipelines so that we have the efficiencies with no remuneration and for the extra cost. And so sometimes it's not just the government doing it. I just feel like I need to point that out.
Yeah, look, it's a collaboration, there's no doubt about it, but our provincial government did put $300 million just recently into being able to have these efficiencies. So we have invested in it, and we invest every year into these efficiencies. So could we do more? If you're irrigator, you definitely think we could, but every other industry out there wants just as much. I got farmers, as the parliamentary secretary for ag development, I can tell you the farmers up in central and northern Alberta are saying, why are you putting so much money in the south? So everybody's fighting for that money.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Any other questions from the public? Well, I think that we've accomplished quite a lot today. I am so grateful to see so much commitment and investment in our friends and our neighbors and our community. It's a testament to how successful we are as a collaborative community, our shared communities, with your presence here today. If there aren't any further questions, on behalf of the dignitaries present, we would like to thank you all for attending this year's State of the Region, and we welcome you to stay to finish off some refreshments and to mingle. And I hear that one of our councilors would like to try to encourage us to lead off in some karaoke. So if you're up for that, that is available to you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to our dignitaries.